the way the world's going, you never know where it's going, but put the Lord first and always pray and seek Him and find like-minded people.
Build your house on the rock.
Yeah.
So if your foundation's strong, then the house is strong.
Tribal Trail. Hello and welcome to Tribal Trails. On today's program, we're heading to Slave Lake, Alberta to have a visit with Beven and Terri Ward. They've been on our program before individually, but this is the first time we'll see them as a married couple. They're going to share about everything from how they met to married life and raising a family, and even issues like generational trauma. All this will be under the theme of relationship built on a foundation of the most important relationship, the one with the Lord Jesus Christ. Let's join my wife Florence as she talks with Beven and Terri.
How did you guys meet?
We met at a hockey tournament in Big River.
2016.
2016. It was March 2016. And Beven walked in and shook my hand and introduced himself. And then we didn't talk for a couple of years after that. But I think it was just not the right timing at that point. But yeah, and then we, I think, met again.
Yeah, I remember hearing about Terri the first time in 2011. It was actually my, auntie-in-law, I guess? Yeah, Lori Ward, Frank Ward's wife. She said, hey, you should meet Terri. There's this girl at Big River over here. She's camp director. You should meet Terri. You should go for Terri. And when we met in 2016, I already known about Terri for, 3 years, 4 years now?
Yeah, people are talking to me too.
People would like my Auntie Lori, Uncle Frank, and people would say you should go for Terri. So when I met her in 2016, I kind of already knew about her. Yeah. But when I went and shook her hand, I was under the impression that she was dating somebody. So I didn't just went and introduced myself, and that was it.
Yeah, same for me. Like Lori mentioned Beven to me too. Like at I think it was when I was baptized in 2012. They were there for the weekend, I guess. And you should meet Frank's nephew. And he's all the way in Alberta. I'm in Saskatchewan, so I'm like, well, how's that going to work out? But kind of didn't think about it. And then we met again. And before he showed up, they were like, oh, Beven Ward's coming. And I'm like, I don't know who he is, but I've heard of him. And yeah, and then a couple of years later, 2018, he asked me out. And we went on our first date in June 2018. So 2 years after we had met.
Yeah, there was a earlier time there. Was it 2015? I think she was a camp director, and I was trying to reach out to her, I guess. I was going to ask about the possibility of working at the Big River for the summer. Yeah. I remember Facebook was still pretty early, I guess, back then. So I sent her we weren't friends on Facebook yet, but I sent her a message like, hey, how's it work? I don't know, something just trying to talk to her, I guess. Yeah. But she didn't see that message until after summer.
Yeah.
So
he messaged me in June, and I saw it September. It still, I don't think, was timing for either of us. Maybe the Lord had 2 more years of us to do our own thing and then get ready to be together. And so started dating June 2018 and then got engaged September 2018 and married that following March. And it's been 6 years this month of us being married. So
6 years and 2 kids.
Yeah, 2 kids later.
And 2 animals.
And 2 animals, 2 pets.
People would mention her. Family members, I remember my sisters would mention her too, way out of the blue. You should go for Terri. Like, oh, Terri's nice, blah, blah, blah. And she would come to, there's this Native Youth Conference up in Camp Neckerman there that I used to help planning committee. I was on the planning committee there for two years, I think. Yeah.
Our paths, yeah. Same, Beven's name would come up and stuff, and I was still single. We met when I was 27, so. And then, the rest kind of just happened. We moved around a bit, and now we're in Slave Lake, raising our kids. We have a 5-year-old and almost 3-year-old.
Living as a married couple. So how is your, your walk with the Lord?
Yeah, for me, I grew up doing camp ministry. I did coaching soccer with Athletes in Action, and then camp with NCM, the Bigger Bible Camp, and then back home in my off season of camp, I would help out with youth groups, and if the church had any needs, I would often volunteer and stuff like that. So growing up as a teenager till my young adult life, I was in ministry, and we got married, and I for a long time was like, I just want a Christian man to grow with, to walk with. And I think that was evident at our wedding too, with our vows of working together for the Lord. But it was a couple years ago, we had Maverick already, and I was like, I think I'm ready to get back into ministry. And the Lord spoke to me and was just like, well, your family's your ministry. Like, you're, speaking life into your kids and being a good wife to your husband, and that's where I'm calling you right now. And I could have relationships with my friends that are, mom friends, our family, and how we raise our kids. Like, it's been really exciting to see our kids start, praying at the table. Like, they offer to pray for our meals and stuff. Or my son, he's just turned 5, and he's asking questions. Well, one of the questions he asked was, if those humans have hearts, why did they kill Jesus on the cross? And I'm like, that's a good question. And so you have to Lord, help me answer this almost, because, it's like for a 5-year-old, the comprehension that he has, it's been exciting. But so for me, that's where I'm at. And
that is important.
Yeah.
I think for me, I kind of always had the desire to be a husband and a father. But my dad was a pretty big influence in my life. And I kind of seen how a man should treat a woman from my dad, and I consider that a really, really huge blessing, considering the fact that I'm First Nations, and a lot of the times it's not like that on the reserves. Growing up for a lot of people, and I kind of always thought that I would marry someone and raise my kids to fear God, just like how my dad did. Cleo wants to be in the shot.
Yeah, she wants to be in the shot here.
But I don't know. There's a gentleman there. I can't remember his name right now. He said like what Terri said, your first ministry is your house, and that's kind of what we've focused on. Like, we've had aspirations of joining some mission, whether that's NCEM or wherever. But our focus right now is kind of our family and raising God-fearing children. That's for sure. And then the early years in marriage there, and everyone who's married can say that the first year is pretty challenging because you have two ideologies. A lot of times they clash and stuff like that. And one of the things Terri said at our marriage vows was, I think she said, I'm going to be your teammate for life or something. And I think that's really good because it's not me raising our kids, it's not Terri raising our kids, it's both of us.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of where the Lord's been leading me, is just to be a good leader for the house.
Provider.
And a provider. I'm at work. I work in the oil field right now, and
being a full-time mom is a lot of work too, but getting them to do their things and extracurricular activities and all the things and meal planning. So it's a big job too, but we kind of work together and, bounce off ideas and what's working, what's not working, and with the kids trading off bedtime duties, which is nice. It's nice to have a team player for sure.
Oh yeah, shaping and molding a person is hard work. And rewarding as well.
It's very rewarding. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you gave yourself to the Lord, do you feel you have a calling?
Yeah, I think for me, I think for us too, we do want to be in some kind of ministry, whether that be in a full-time missions or just how you're living your life in meeting with people,
Yeah.
like there's always an opportunity to share the gospel and share your story with people and kind of relate that way. But I think as a couple, I mean, we've been, just thinking and praying about it more and more because our kids are, they're 5 and going to be 3 here. So right now, for sure, just our family, but wherever, I think we kind of like, whatever the will, like the Lord's will is for us, we'll try to make that work. Like we want to honor the Lord in how we live our life. Do you have anything
Yeah,
to
I
add?
remember because before we got married, Terri had wanted to join NCM, and before I got married, I wanted to join NCM, and then we got married, and then kind of went on the back burner a little bit there, I think.
Yeah.
But I think in the future here, like, 'cause we would talk about it on and off, like joining NCEM or some sort of ministry somewhere. And we had the idea of Big River Bible Camp for a bit there. Then we had another idea of tribal trails there for a bit. And then there's so many things like that. And then there's the possibility of KBI starting up again. So there's that. So there's so many different things. And it's just a matter of wherever the Lord wants us.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, it's just raising the family and going to church and being
Good people.
being
world, I
good
guess.
people. Just but there's a lot of opportunities for ministry just for our families too.
Yeah.
And we found that I don't know, like even like distant relatives and stuff will reach out to us randomly sometimes, and those are opportunities for ministry too.
Oh, yes.
But I really believe that in the very near future we'll be somewhere.
Well, God has placed you wherever work, especially too, like wherever you're working.
Yeah.
Like, that is the ministry in itself. Like, you're shining, your testimony is a light. And I'm sure they see your life as you live it. I know marriage is not easy. How would you encourage couples that are struggling, or even just that have just gotten married?
I think for me, looking back on just me and you, is not being selfish. I think if you really put your spouse first, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And Terri says that you have to keep pursuing your spouse, and more importantly, you have to remember who brought you together. And for us, that's 100% the Lord's doing.
Yeah.
And just continuing to focus on the Lord and each other, putting each other first, is the way to do it, I think. And she lets me golf whenever I want. So
Yeah.
I think too, like, we aren't perfect by any means. We've had our disagreements and arguments and all those kind of things, but just being honest with where you're at in communication and just saying, like, sometimes I'll have a harder day with the kids or not sleep great the night before, so hey, I need to take 20, like, and go have a nap or go just do something. Or like I'm playing soccer, so then on Thursdays I'm out playing soccer, so you're with the kids. Okay, Saturday I have a tea time at 10. I'm gonna go do my thing, and so we kind of just, if you need the time to yourself, because we're a couple, but we still like our alone time too. But just not just blindly saying like, okay, on Monday I wake up and okay, see you later. Like we talk about our day to day, where we have plans and. Hey, let's go all as a family golfing. Let's go all the way, like, do things as a family, but making time for yourself too.
Yeah.
And then just having that communication of like where you're at and being honest with that has gone a long way for us as well. So,
That's great. Yeah.
and we share the responsibilities in the house too.
Yeah.
Like she'll hop on the dishes one night and I'll do it the next night, or just putting the kids to bed. Stuff like that, cleaning the house.
Well, and I think for me too, like early on in our marriage, or maybe even when we were dating, it was kind of like sorry, here, talking about, because he had his parents to look up to. They've been married for 36 years. They're coming up to 37, I think. But I didn't grow up with two parents in the household, right? Like they had separated when I was really young. And then my mom had, different relationships and stuff, which for me, like early on, I was like, if we have an argument, you can't yell at me, like I'll shut down. And so I'm thankful, we have disagreements, but we haven't had one that's like yelling at each other, but that's like the Lord's doing, but also that he's understanding of like, what I grew up with and the stuff there, like, so it's been really good that way for me. When you come from not a very good upbringing, finding that person that could understand you, and if they don't, then that might not be the person for you.
Right.
So hopefully you find that out before you get married. So that's something else.
I know that you've walked with the Lord for a number of years, and you probably seek His guidance, as you're still growing, even as a married couple, and I know that is important. So how is even your spiritual walk with the Lord been?
Yeah, I think, good. As you seek the Lord, you pray with Him, you talk to Him, you bring Him into your day-to-day. Teaching our kids that it's, you can pray and stuff. So my kids will ask, I'll pray. And sometimes we kind of do, I don't know what we call it, but my daughter will start praying, or my son will start praying, and my daughter will pray at the same time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we're all praying together and stuff. So it's like, I feel like, making time for me, I listen to a lot of worship music when I'm cooking or cleaning. I'll just put it on our TV and turn it up, and we'll start cleaning, and my kids will have little dance parties to some Christian upbeat music kind of thing. And I know for Beven, he's listening to lots of worship music on his work runs and stuff. So bringing the Lord in that way, and then praying together, studying together, like.
And sometimes we read the word at supper.
Yeah.
Just after supper.
Just after supper.
Yeah, the kids will watch Veggie Tales, and it'll be like David and Goliath, and then at supper we'll read the actual text in the Bible.
Yeah, I think putting the Lord first always is what's best and stuff, and it's been working for us so far, thankfully. But I know it's not as easy, or there's weeks where, or not weeks, but like days where you're like, oh hey, we didn't get into the Word with the kids, or we didn't pray with the kids, or whatever it is. But we make sure to pray at meal times with them for sure.
Yeah.
And then before bed too, like we'll sing our songs and pray with them as well.
And do you guys have like a church or a church family?
Yeah, we've been going, there's a church in town here we've been going to, and Bevan's working every other week right now, but the weekends that he's home, for the most part, we are going to our church in town and just meeting with people and attending the potlucks. Very good food.
We're a part of a life group too.
Yeah, the life group's been good. I started going because it was on the days where Bevan was working, so he'd get home and then I'd have a babysitter often.
Yeah.
And then they would go home and Bevan would be with the kids. And then they switched it to when it was on days where he was off, so then he got to come, which has been good, and we like it.
Is there anything that's speaking to you that you want to share?
We serve a mighty God, and He definitely breaks chains.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to my dad, he's the one who broke a cycle in his family.
Yeah.
And then my wife Terri, she's one of the ones that broke the cycle in her family. And you could be in the darkness somewhere, but maybe it's you that breaks the chain, and your family's I can't.
Generational.
Intergenerational trauma, is that the word I'm looking for?
Generational curses, yeah.
And I would see that not in my family, but like in other people's family, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, whatever it is. And for me, when I was younger, and seeing that in other people's families, I didn't want no part of it. And then when my dad broke that cycle in his family, and then was able to see the testimony and how he treated my mom and stuff like that, and it really was a big ministry for me. And I just thank God that my dad is who he is, and I thank God that Terri is who she is, because she was able to do that for her family. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think coming from that, like, I mean, I didn't grow up in a Christian home, or we didn't go to church and stuff, but there are times where you might feel alone, but you're not. Like, I know that, I went to Bible camp, and at camp, everyone's sharing their stories, and you kind of realize that, oh, I'm not actually alone. There's more people who are dealing with the same thing, coming from a home where, alcohol, drug abuse, it's there. And so you're not alone. There are other people there. There are people willing to help you, pray with you, listen with you, and grow with you. I have friends from 2007 at camp, and they're still my good friends today, and I could call them and they can pray for me. I could pray for them and stuff. So, just meeting and finding the people that will help you grow, and you could help them grow. And so, for me, breaking that generational curse, it's hard, but it's very, now what's what I'm looking for, rewarding and life-giving. And that you can be the change in your family, and to always put the Lord first.
That's awesome.
but that it's all the Lord's doing. And that's, sometimes you wake up and you pinch yourself and just keep thanking God and just keep giving back.
Yeah.
Once we apply His word into our lives, He's the one that does it for us, and makes it easier.
Yeah, and I think too, like, as a married couple, to circle back to, we are a couple first too. Like, we can love the Lord, that's always number one, but we always have to come back to each other and talk and be at that open, honest conversation and communication with each other, even if it's hard, because there are hard times. And, sometimes we need breaks to just, pray and think, what do we want to say to our wife or our husband that's not going to tear them down, but build them up again, right? And so, we've done both. Like, we're not perfect at all, but we're always learning and trusting the Lord to help us, and it's been great so far.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your story. And I don't know, is there anything else you want to add on to that?
Choose God, choose Jesus.
Yeah, the way the world's going, you never know where it's going, but put the Lord first and always pray and seek Him and find like-minded people.
Yeah.
If people aren't willing to grow with you, they might not be your people.
Yes, that's true.
Build your house on the rock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if your foundation's strong, then the house is strong.
Yes, indeed. Build your house on the rock. We all understand Bevan's words in a physical sense of an actual house and figuratively for a household of people, but there's spiritual meaning too. These words came from Jesus in Matthew chapter 7, where he says that people who hear and do what he teaches are like the wise, who build houses on strong foundations. The meaning is straightforward. Like a house built on a rock, your life needs to be built on Jesus and his teachings. In light of the discussions with the words on today's program, this means to have a good relationship in your marriage, you need to have a relationship with Jesus. Simply pray to Jesus and acknowledge that you have sinned, ask him to forgive and save you, and accept him as Lord of your life. If you would like to know more about relationships with God and people, give us a call. Write in to our office or check out our website at www.traveltrails.org. And remember to build your house on the rock.